Struggling to defend against the fried liver attack as black? This aggressive opening can be tricky, but don't worry, we've got key strategies to help you counter it effectively. Watch this video to sharpen your defense and gain the upper hand. The game begins with the moves pawn to e4, pawn to e5, knight to f3, and knight to c6, leading to the Italian game. Now, white continues with bishop to c4, and black responds with knight to f6. At this point, white plays knight to g5, entering the fried liver attack. Or pawn to d5 is played, and after the exchange, capturing with knight takes d5 is a mistake. White can now strike with knight takes f7, launching a dangerous attack. We explored key variations where white easily pressures black. To counter the fried liver attack, today we'll examine bishop to c5, known as the Traxler counterattack. At first glance, it may seem like a blunder since white can simply capture with knight takes f7, forking the queen and rook. However, this is exactly the idea behind the Traxler counterattack. We invite white's knight forward to launch a counterattack with bishop takes f2, check. In this variation, we'll explore two main responses. White captures the bishop on f2, white ignores the bishop and plays king to f1. First, if white captures the bishop, we respond with knight takes e4, check. At this point, white's king has 6 possible moves. 4 of them lead to immediate loss, while only 2 avoid a quick defeat, but even then, white's position remains extremely difficult to play. Let's start with the first variation, where white plays king to f3. Interestingly, this is the only line where black does not play queen to h4 or set up a similar attack. Now we play queen to f6, check. In the other 5 variations we'll examine later, the key move will always be queen to h4, but in this specific case, white is forced to capture the knight. This pushes the king further up the board, making it even more vulnerable. Next we continue with queen to f4, check. White's king must retreat to d3 because if it moves to d5, black can deliver a swift checkmate. With no other option, white plays king to d3 and we respond with queen to d4, check. Now the king has only one legal move, retreating back to e2. At this point, we capture the bishop, and after white blocks, we take the knight as well. This is a crucial concept in the Traxler counterattack. In several other variations where white chooses a different king move, we use this same tactic of winning back material with checks. Now, in this position, we regain the 2 pieces we initially sacrificed, and we are also a pawn up. Black has an easy position to play, with strong attacking ideas like knight to d4, check, advancing pawns, bringing the bishop into play, and even castling. Meanwhile, white's king is stuck in the center, unable to castle, making black's attack even more dangerous. Now let's go back and examine the second variation, where white plays king to e1. Here, we respond with queen to h4, check, a crucial move to remember, as it appears in nearly every variation except the first one we covered. The key idea behind queen to h4 is that we are threatening checkmate on f2. Additionally, if we move our knight on the next turn, our queen will attack both the bishop and the knight, creating a powerful double attack. To defend, white must play pawn to g3, blocking the check. Now, we strike with knight takes g3, another critical concept in this variation. Our queen attacks the bishop, our knight threatens the rook, and we are also setting up a discovered check. White is forced to capture our knight, but this leaves the rook hanging. We simply take it with queen takes h1, securing a winning position. Now let's move on to the third variation, where white plays king to f1. Again, we play queen to h4, threatening checkmate on f2. If white tries to defend with queen to e2 or queen to f3, we simply continue with knight to d4, adding more pressure and setting up a checkmate threat on the next move. If white tries to defend with pawn to g3, we follow the same idea, capturing with check. After white recaptures our knight, we take the rook with check. At this point, white must play queen to e1 to guard the f2 square. Our plan remains consistent. We still go for knight to g3, check, regardless of whether white advanced the pawn or not. Now, if white captures with the pawn, we simply take the rook. If white captures with the queen, we take the bishop with check. After white pushes the pawn, we capture again, regaining material. Similar to the previous line, we come out ahead, gaining back our sacrifice pieces while remaining a pawn up. Now let's examine the 2 white moves that don't lose immediately. The first is king to g1. Again, we respond with queen to h4, a key move to remember in this position. Our attacking ideas remain the same, forcing white to block with pawn to g3. Once again, we capture the pawn, and after white recaptures, the position differs slightly. Here, king to g1 doesn't lose immediately because the king still defends the rook, and we cannot capture the bishop with check. Instead, we play queen takes pawn with check, forcing white's king back to f1. Now, a crucial move, rook to f8. This gets our rook out of danger from white's knight, setting up even stronger attacking chances. Now, the knight is pinned to the king, making it difficult for white to defend. Even though a computer evaluation might say this position is equal, it is actually quite challenging for white to play accurately. Black's plan is straightforward. We will push pawn to d5, attacking the bishop and preparing to develop our own bishop to either h3, check, or g4, targeting the queen. Additionally, pawn to d5 blocks white's bishop's diagonal, making it easier to capture the knight on f7 later. Because of these threats, white's position is far from easy to hold. Now, let's look at the second move for white that does not lose immediately, king to e3. This move seems unusual and counterintuitive, as the king moves further from safety and deeper into the center. After this, we continue with queen to h4, maintaining our usual threats of queen to f2 or queen to f4. White can try to defend by playing pawn to g3, covering both threats. However, we simply capture the pawn, and after white recaptures, we must know an important move, queen to d4, check. If white responds with king to e2, we follow the same winning idea as in previous variations. We capture the bishop and then the knight, securing a dominant position. White is now forced to move the king to the left with king to f3. At this point, we have a brilliant move, castling. At first glance, this might seem like an illegal move, but it is perfectly legal because neither f8 nor g8 is under attack. This allows black to safely castle despite the chaotic position. At first, it may also seem risky since white's knight could jump to h6, delivering a double check, or move elsewhere to unleash a discovered check with the bishop. However, white cannot do this because the knight is pinned. Our rook on f8 is pinning it to the king, preventing any movement. Even though a computer might evaluate this position as equal, it remains incredibly difficult for white to play. Black's threats are clear and powerful. Our queen is attacking the bishop, and we are preparing pawn to d5, gaining a tempo by attacking the bishop. Once pawn to d5 is played, white loses the knight's protection on f7, and we also have the devastating idea of bringing our bishop to g4, check, winning white's queen on d1. Now you might be wondering, we've already analyzed 5 different king moves, so what's the 6th variation? I've saved the best for last because my favorite line comes next, king to e2. Here, we start with knight to d4, check, forcing the king to move up. If white retreats to f1, we continue with queen to h4, just like in previous lines. If king to e3, we again play queen to h4, maintaining our threats. If white captures our rook on h8, we have a forced checkmate in 7 moves. The first move is queen to f4, check, forcing king to d3. Instead of just winning the queen, we aim for checkmate with knight to c5, check. White's king is pushed to c3, and we sacrifice our other knight with knight to b4, check. If white captures with the bishop, we simply play queen to d4, checkmate. If white moves the king to b4, we play pawn to a5, check. Depending on which knight white captures, we either checkmate with the bishop on d7 or push a pawn for the final blow. If king takes b5, we continue with pawn to c6, check, and if white moves to b6, we play knight to a4, check, forcing king to c7. Now, the finishing touch, pawn to e4, checkmate. An absolute masterpiece.